All right. Welcome everyone to the Friday stream. I'm going to expect not a lot of people to be here tonight compared to the other days, like yesterday. Well, because you know it's Friday. Everyone wants to have a little bit of a break, you know, at the end of the week here. But we will go over what happened to the markets today. All right, and we will also go over what I'm going to expect to, next week on Monday. All right, so I want you all to be prepared like me. All right, I want you all to be, you know, at the very least, all right. You don't want to be, you know, going into the markets on Monday, not knowing what's going to happen, or not what, you know, you don't even know what levels to play, right? So you know, I never want any of my, especially my CFO Streaming Much members and my Discord members to ever go into the markets without knowing what to look out for, right? So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of preparation here before the new week starts on Monday. All right, so let's go ahead and start. But before I begin, can everyone hear me clearly? I'm going to put the music volume down a little bit more, so that you guys can hear me perfectly. But if you can't, please let me know. Let me know the balance between the music and my voice is okay. Okay, perfect. Yes, we can hear you. And hopefully you guys can still hear your, hear my music, not your music. Okay. Alright. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Yes, I hear you clearly. A thumbs up. Awesome, awesome. Alright. So, SPY. What happened today? Alright. So, crazy action. Well, not really crazy. I mean, you know, like we discussed last night, right? We had a range, a support range between 385 and 387. Okay? And today, we tried to bounce on 387, tried to bounce on 385, and we completely flushed. Right? So, after we flushed to 385, I expected us to see a next level support around 382. Now, where do I see this level? 382? Well, right here. Right? This is where we saw a lot of support buying coming in back in February of last year and around March of last year as well, right? We held this 382 level pretty well, and we continue to the upside, right? Now, with that being said, okay, we also decided to break below 382. And when I saw that happen, I was like, what will be the next possible level that we can go to before we see a little bit of a bounce, right? And I went back, right? And I was like, okay, 382, So we decided to break below 382. And then I was like, okay, maybe 380, right? And why did I choose 380? Well, because it's a whole number, right? 380, right? And that's a psychological level as well. All whole numbers on SPY, especially SPY, all right, it's a whole number. Now, before I move on, let me teach you guys something, all right? For the people who don't know about this yet, SPY, okay, has levels that are made on specifically whole numbers, right? That 0.00 level, like this 380 level, right? 380.00 level. And why does that happen? Well, just purely because people like to use simple levels, right? People like to do math with simple numbers, especially if you're trying to calculate your entry, your exit, and your stop loss, right? It'll be easier to use simple numbers like whole numbers, right? 0.00. And so we usually tend to see names that are very that has a lot of volume, right? A lot of volume, okay? They tend to have a lot of levels that are formed at these whole number levels, okay? So it's kind of a little bit of a trick for you all, especially if you guys are having trouble finding out levels when you're doing technical analysis on whatever time frame, right? So you want to look at liquid names like SPY, and remember, liquid means a lot of volume, right? So if you have a lot of, if you're looking at a liquid name like SPY, you always want to look out for whole number levels, right? Because the levels are usually there, right? If you're trying to look out for a level that is a whole number. So 380, I was like, okay, so 380 can be a potential level, and let me mark that spot here, right? And if you look in the past here, right, we somehow use 380 as a level here and there, right? This area, and right here, right? Multiple times. And so today, what happened was we decided to break below 381, and then we bounced at 380.50. And now here's my next lesson of whole numbers, okay? SPY also tends to use 0.50 as a whole number level, right? So in SPY, you have both 0.00 and 0.50 as whole number levels. Does that make sense? Right? It's a very simple thing to use and to help with your technical analysis. Right? So make sure you guys write that down. Make sure you guys remember that. Right? But this usually only applies to liquid names. So names that have a lot of volume. And what is a lot of volume? Well, personally for me, around 1 to 2 million and up is a lot of volume. But what works best with this kind of a strategy to your technical analysis skills to finding levels, well, they usually work with names that have volume up and above 10 million. Right? So let's for example look at Apple. Right? Apple's average volume is what? 100 million, just like SPY. Right? How about Netflix? Right? Netflix has a volume of 10 million or average 15 million, right? Well, today's volume was 15 million, right? So, you want to be looking at names that have a lot of volume, right? That are liquid. So with SPY here, okay, we bounce around that 380.50-ish level. Obviously, if you want to be exact and precise, it was 380.54, but I'm always going to round it, right? Round it down, round it up, whatever it may be. I'm trying to round it very close to that whole number level, right? 0.50 or 0.00. Does everyone understand that? Right? If you guys have any questions, I'm wondering, what other reasons there may be, okay? I don't really go into that because I mean, why? Why would I do that, right? Why would I want to complicate things when I'm trying to, simplify things in the market, right? Because the market is already complicated as it is. Right, so you can do your research. Find all the theories, find all the concepts of why, the psychological reasons why behind why traders like to use whole numbers, or why levels are formed at these 0.00, 0.50. There's multiple theories out there. I don't get into it. You can if you want. That's just my subjective opinion. I don't like to go into that because I just like to use those levels to trade. I'm not going to make it any complicated than that. All right. So with that in mind now, with that information, all right, I'm actually thinking next week we might see some type of buying coming in. All right. And overall, I'm still bearish. Okay. Let me say this. Let me say this on the record. I'm still long-term bearish. But like I said, right, in a bear market, we just had a little bit of a touch of a bear market today, right? As we decide to dip a little bit below that 20%, minus 20% from all-time highs, right? So obviously, we were saved as we bounced this week, okay? It's just gonna be kind of inaccurate, but we ended up about 18.50%, all right? Minus 18.50%. Okay, that's kind of inaccurate since, I'm using a ruler there. But from all-time highs, right, we touched below minus 20%, okay? And that was our first initial touch of a bear market. And something in the back of my head, there's always that little tiny voice in my head that tells me, okay, well, we first had an initial touch of a bear market. Then that means there's a possibility that we're gonna bounce before we continue to head back into that bear market, right? And so today's actions at the last hour of the day just confirmed my my little voice in the back of my head, right? And also, if you take a look at the weekly time frame, right? Look how unhealthy this downtrend has been so far, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weekly candlesticks now, right? Back-to-back consecutive red candlesticks. So if you get a nice bounce next week, right? I've been waiting for a nice green candlestick, right? And so at some point, I'm telling myself, there has to be a maximum pain, right? That this weekly time frame is going to show. And I'm asking myself, after 7 weeks of red candlesticks, are we finally going to get a green candlestick on the weekly time frame? Are we finally going to get an actual green candlestick like this, like this or like this, right? Whatever it may be, an actual green candlestick. Can we actually end up being green, right? And so I'm going to anticipate that next week. Now, obviously, on the weekly time frame, if we change the perspective on the bigger time frame, right, on a bigger picture level here, this weekly candlestick looks ugly, right? I mean, I'm going to straight up say that it looks very ugly. Okay, now if I take off all my drawings here, okay, why do I want next week to, especially the 8th week since we've had 7 consecutive weekly candlesticks that are red? Why do I want the 8th week to be green? Because we're starting to get a little bit too far away from my 10 and 21 momentum SMAs, right? And now you're wondering, why are you, Andrew, why are you focused on the 10 and 21 SMAs? Because they're my momentum SMAs. And I want to see a continuation of this downtrend. Remember, long term, I am bearish still, right? But in the short-term sense here, I want to see a bounce because I want to see a retest of my 10 or my 21 SMA, most likely my 10 SMA on the weekly time frame, so that we can get a confirmation that we can head lower, right? And we got that confirmation a month back here in March, right? 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half, all right? And do you see how when we first broke out of this, let me bring my drawings back, this ascending channel, right? And we broke out of it, right? What is the first thing that we did after we broke out? We bounced hard and we came back to retest the 10 and the 21 SMA, right? But now that we've completely pulled back here, right, I want us to see at least a retest of the 10 SMA so that I can get a confirmation that, okay, if we retest the 10 SMA and if we reject off of the 10 SMA, that'll give me even a more further confirmation, right? A better confirmation even for a longer term perspective to the downside. Does that make sense? Right? So I want the momentum to continue to the downside in the long term, but I need to see another retest of the 10 SMA for me to conclude, right, that in the long term, right, my long-term bias is true, right, that it's going to go to the downside for a long term, right? And the last final thing that I can kind of get a good sense that we can get a nice green week tomorrow, next week is this, okay? This week, we actually were able to break above the previous high of last week, right? I mean, if you just look at the chart here, you can clearly tell that this week's top wick here, right, was a lot higher than last week's top wick, right? And if you go down to the numbers, the high of this week was 408.57, and last week's high was 406.41. Okay, so that is one of our clues there that we can possibly get a nice green week next week, and also to have even more corroboration for my claim here for next week. All right, we also closed above last week's low. All right, I would expect more downtrend next week if we closed below last week's low. All right. So now, before I move on, does everyone understand what I'm saying? Yes? Perfect. Okay. So, with that in mind, right, that's another reason why I told my members, right, that if we close at lows today, and the lows was around 380, 382, right, there's higher chance and most likely we're going to head lower next week, right? There's a possibility that we can even get a limit down, right, where futures go down so much that the markets or the market makers have to stop the market. They have to pause the market. They have to close the markets basically for a few minutes, right? Or even for the entirety of the weekend, right? Well, not the weekend, but Sunday night. So, you know, that's the reason why I said it. But based on this close, right, we might even get a relief bounce next week, right? Because of the fact that we closed above last week's lows, right? But if we had closed below last week's lows, I mean, that would have meant further downside and possibly another 8th week of losses, right, before making a nice big bounce to the upside, right? So I am still going to hold my plays to the downside, right, because I still have I would say a month left, I think, right, or a couple weeks, maybe 2.5 or 3 weeks, I believe, because I am holding VIXY VIXY calls and UVXY calls as well. So I'm still gonna hold that, and I'm going to be looking to play SPY calls if we decide to head up higher next week. All right, and there's a higher probability that we can see a nice uptrend. Okay, and so far, okay, you know, we're finally seeing, okay, a chance for us to actually have a nice bounce to the upside, right? A nice relief bear market bounce. Okay, so you know, next week, if we decide to, now let's get down to the levels here, the price levels, right? If we decide to hold above 390 and 390.50 next Monday, all right, if we're able to hold the 390.50, all right, we should see a nice bounce back to 394, okay? And once 394 is crossed, right, most likely we're going to see the 10 SMA here, okay? We're likely to see the 10 SMA acting as resistance next week, all right, on the daily time frame. Now, remember, I'm talking about the daily time frame. So, if we decide to break above 394, right, there's a higher probability that we can see another rejection on the daily time frame on the 10 SMA before retesting the 10 SMA again, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, all right, and breaking up higher and closing above the 10 SMA. All right, and then the true test will come next week if we decide to go all the way up, if we start to bounce higher on the 398 level. Right, this 398 level has been acting as a level of resistance. okay, at its level of support, right? 2 weeks back and last week, right? So this 398 level is going to be crucial in telling us whether or not, right, we can see, or we can actually see a close, all right, for a green weekly candlestick, right? And let me remind you all, right, on the daily time frame, what type of chart pattern are we looking at here? A descending channel, right? So a descending channel is inherently a bullish chart pattern. But inside the descending channel, it's a bearish trend, right? Because, well, as the chart is forming, the price has to go down. Hence, a descending trend and descending channel, which is the term for this bullish chart pattern, right? So I wouldn't be surprised, right, in the next 1 week or 2 weeks, right, we can see a nice bounce and even a breakout out of this descending channel, right? Now, I don't know if we're going to break out next week. Who knows, right? But we're getting pretty close to this descending resistance trend line for this descending channel chart pattern, right? Now, obviously, you know, I'm not going to be able to predict the future. No one will be unless you're a time traveler, right? But I'm looking at my risk here. I'm doing a risk assessment through using my technical analysis skills, right? And this is where you have to get really, really good and master your technical analysis skills, right? Hey, welcome everyone who are just joining me right now. I see that people are joining me right now, so awesome. Welcome to the Friday live stream, right? So next week, all right, for SPY, I expect us to at least print a green candlestick, right? Because of all the reasons that I've just described for you all. And for the people who are just joining right now, you guys can kind of skip to around, I believe, like 7 minutes or so on the recording, since this recording will be posted right away after this stream ends, right? And you can start watching from that point forward, and you can see what I mean and what are the reasons why I think we can have a nice green week, okay? So, you know, if we do end up touching the 398 resistance, all right, hopefully, you know, we can close around there, all right, and possibly the next week after that, so 2 weeks in advance here from this point forward, we can see a nice break out of this descending channel, okay? But again, if I see a lot of resistance, and do you see how, you know, there's a possibility that on Monday, right, well, not Monday, next week, right, you know, if we do touch 398, that's also going to coincide, right, this converging point right here, right, there's this converging point, right, right here, where you can clearly see the 398 horizontal level converging with this descending trendline level, right? So there's going to be a lot of resistance, and also, right, the 10 SMA will be providing support if we decide to come back to around 398, because at that point I expect the 10 SMA, okay, I expect the 10 SMA to start curving underneath the price and start supporting the price higher. Now this is if and only if the price closes above the 10 SMA, comes back down and bounces on top of the 10 SMA, okay, and the price gets tighter and tighter and tighter until it breaks above 398. All right, so, and I expect the 10 SMA to start curving upward. So far, the 10 and 21 have been going straight down, right? So I expect us to see some type of price action where we can come back to around 398, and at that point, I would expect the price to stay above the 10 SMA. Does everyone understand that? Right? So at that point, if we do that, right, the price momentum will start shifting towards the buyers. And if we're able to, you know, go against the sellers who are present at this descending level of resistance and at 398, once we break out of that, there's even a possibility that next week we can even break above 400, right? And once we start breaking above 400, that will be our official confirmation, right, with enough buying volume, right, that we will break out of this descending channel, which is a bullish chart pattern. And we've been making this chart pattern for at least over a month. All right. Did everyone understand that? Hey, Asang, what's up? Okay, so that is my general kind of thesis for next week, and hopefully that can help you guys prepare for next week. Now remember, long term I am bearish. Okay, but if I want to see a longer term bearish trend to continue, like I said, we need to see a nice established green candlestick to for next week. All right, if I don't see that next week, then well, we're heading lower again for another 8th consecutive week of losses. All right, ever since we started to reject back in April 4th, right? This week of April 4th. So, like I said, guys, right? We've been basically 1 month and a half so far been selling off, right? And also, if you take a look at the weekly time frame volume, we've been kind of dying down and selling volume as well. So that has to make you think, there's possibility that we can see a bear market bounce, something like this, right? Where we bounce for 3 weeks straight. And get this, guys, write this run down. Bear market bounces can happen for months, right? Even 3 months, just like we see here on 3 weeks. All right, that should get you guys thinking, right? We can even come back to like the 440s, 450s, and then come straight back down again, right? And that's the price action of bear markets. All right, I've studied bear markets for years now, right? And you know, if you just take a look back on SPY and look at the bear markets that have happened over the 50, 70 years or so, all right, you can see that bear market bounces can go on for a month, 2 months, 3 months. All right. So don't underestimate the bounce during a downtrend or a bear market in the overall markets, right? And also you can't also forget that during bear market bounces, just because the market bounced doesn't mean that the market is going to continue to go back in an uptrend and reverse higher, right? Obviously there's going to be nuances to that statement, but generally during a bear market bounce, you'll most likely get, all right, another shift back to the downside, and we're going to continue to go down. Right, so far, right, obviously this is our second, or actually this is our first, in accordance to this high right here. This is our first lower high compared to this all-time high point that we made, which was 478.49, and then this is our first lower high, which was 462.07. Okay, so I expect us in the next 2 weeks or so to make another second lower high. Okay. So that can happen anywhere between, I would say, a rough prediction. Now, this is where I'm kind of reaching here. I'm speculating here now. Maybe around 410 to around 412 might be our next lower high. And now I'm being conservative there, right? Because bear market bounces can be very, very volatile. So if I'm not being conservative there, I could possibly see 420 as our next lower high. Okay. So I know I just dumped a lot of numbers on you guys, but hopefully you guys understood. If you didn't, go back to the recording, right, and see what I said, and listen and write it down, right? So if you guys are always, if you guys are confused on whatever I'm saying, or if you guys want to, kind of relearn what I've said during these lives, go back to the recordings, right? Go back to my videos, right? That's the reason why I keep those recordings for you, right? I don't delete them. So make sure you guys go back to the lives, right? Share them with people who are interested in the stock market. Spread the word, and that's the best support that you guys can give me on YouTube here. All right. So that's kind of it for SPY. All right, and that's it for tonight. We're hitting the 30-minute mark. Like I said, I just want to do a nice Friday live stream here to kind of go over the markets to help you prepare, right? For next week. And preparation is the best type of getting yourself, ready for next week or the next trading day. And a lot of people don't do their homework, right? They don't prepare, right? Preparation is the best homework in the stock market. And it's just like when we were in school. I don't know if some of you guys are still in school, but preparing is homework. Right? And in school, homework, a lot of people dreaded it, right? But as an adult now, right? Hopefully everyone's an adult here, since you need to be an adult to trade, right? 18 or over. Homework is crucial to your trading because you go over your mistakes. You go over, previous data, right, that the market has provided for you. And based on that homework that you've done, right, you're able to make better trades, better risk assessments, right? And you gain better risk tolerance as you continue to rinse and repeat that process, right? So, homework is preparing, right, in the stock market. And preparedness is your best trading edge and best trading factor that you can have for yourself, especially if you have trouble, right? If you have trouble making trades when the market is open, right? So, yeah, because homework in school don't make us any money. Exactly. Yeah, Dan, you're right. So, that's the reason why we hated homework, right? But you guys have to realize that homework was essential to your learning process, right? Obviously, I guess that can vary from teachers and schools, but, from where I went, right? Homework always helped me with, my tests and whatever quizzes that were coming up, right? Because I did my homework, right? Because I studied. Homework led me and induced me to study more, right? And obviously that's going to be different for people. But people didn't like homework, they didn't want to study, right? Obviously that's different for everyone, but for me, personally, I like to study, right? And so you guys might be thinking, man, Andrew's lame. I was lame. I was a loner as well. I'm gonna straight up say that I was a loner. I was just a study freak. I had all this information in my head that I can just blur out that didn't even matter to whatever topic was at hand whenever I was conversing with anyone. So I was that awkward, kind of lonely, quiet kid that had all this information in my head that I can really just I could literally answer anyone's question. I was the human Google. Right. Obviously, I'm not that anymore, sadly. But I still do, answer questions that my significant other tends to ask me when, because we're living together, and she asked me a bunch of questions that I'm able to answer right away. Right. She'll always, depends on me to answer questions that she may not know. Right. The answer to. So, a little fun fact about me. It's not a proud moment in my life, but I could say that I was definitely proud of being able to answer my woman's answers any time of the moment. At any given moment, if she had a question, I was able to answer it. Same here, man. I can relate. Yes. I have my fellow geeks here, my fellow nerds of information. Yeah, I was literally a sponge. I can, grabbing a bunch of knowledge, and I think that's another reason why I was able to grasp technical analysis in about roughly 2 weeks, right? And also being an artist as a child as well also helped me, because if you guys didn't know, technical analysis is basically I would say a science and an art, right? It's a combination of science and art, right? And so obviously I've seen my previous students as well who weren't very, I would say, art savvy, right? Who weren't art savvy, they had a lot of trouble identifying with the naked eye specific chart patterns or levels, right? And I understood that because it takes artistic work, right, to be able to identify patterns, right? And that's basically what it is. You're drawing, right? A naked chart look like this, right? A naked chart is your template. This is personally for me, I see it as a template. And once I see a naked chart, I immediately look for patterns and levels, right? And some people don't have the ability just yet to be able to see and identify patterns just with their naked eye, right? I see multiple patterns already here, right? Just with my naked eye. And that's where you should be mastering, right? To that point, right? You should master technical analysis to that point where you can identify chart patterns and levels with just your naked eye, right? Instead of being able to, draw them out physically. You should be able to see it with your naked eye. And once you're able to do that, at that point, you can tell yourself that you have completely mastered technical analysis. All right? So that's kind of the turning point where you tell yourself, wow, I have completely mastered technical analysis. Hassan, you said my roommate is an equity trader for a firm, prop firm, and runs their trades, and he doesn't understand how all I automatically see the patterns before anything else. Yes, right. So, that's a sign that you've mastered technical analysis, right? Because you're able to see just with your naked eye without even having to draw a pattern yet on your naked chart, right? They can see chart patterns, right? You said he is more about tape reading, which is not for me. Everyone has their edge. Yes, yeah. So tape reading is actually a indicator as well, right? Just like my SMAs here, or if I pull up my RSI and MACD, right? They're all indicators, right? And tape reading, I've tried it before too, and it's not for me, just like you, Hassan. And tape reading can be very, very useful. I can tell you that it's a viable tool that people can use, right? Especially if they're wanting to see a breakout. But for me, I just depend on the actual price, right? The actual price that gets printed on the charts, right? I don't like to see all that fast orders that are coming in. Okay, when I trade futures as well, it's a lot harder, right? When I'm looking at futures, because futures is very, very quick, right? Just with level 2 or tape reading, it can be just as fast, right? And especially when I'm trading stocks or options, I want to be able to just see the actual, right, data that's printed on the markets, right? So that's just my personal edge. Just like you said, Hassan, everyone has their own unique trading edge, right? So I would never ever force anyone to learn tape reading or just learn technical analysis, right? Because I want everyone to experience what the market has to offer first before they find their own personal edge. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so that is it for tonight, guys. I do want to make one more announcement before I leave you guys off here for the weekend. I have my 4 weeks program that is starting on June 4th. Right, I haven't done one since last year because the last one started in December and ended in January, for the first week of January. But now I'm bringing it back. People have been asking me since last year when I'm going to do my next round for the 4 weeks program. So I am officially starting back on June 4th since everyone has been asking me, everyone and their mothers, literally, the mothers. so even the older demographics want to learn. So that's telling you something, that people want to find more multiple income streams for themselves, and that's amazing, right? And so I just want to tell you guys that I'm starting the 4 weeks program back up again. It will start on June 4th. Okay, all the details are on my website, chartsfocus1.com. If you kind of scroll and kind of navigate through the website, you'll figure out that there is a section called the 4 weeks program. You can click on it and you can see the description on there and what is the 4 weeks programs, right? So, if you guys don't understand anything on the website, then come and ask me, but all the information is on my website. Okay, so if you guys are curious. And what was I about to say? Oh yeah. So with the 4 weeks program, right? It's basically a beginner to advanced extensive program for 4 weeks. Hence the 4 weeks program, right? That's the name. And every single week, right? We have 2 sessions every single weekend, right? And we go over everything, right? Everything that you need to know as a trader that's beginning, or even I've had people who have been struggling with trading come in, all right, into, I tried going on it. My website, Hassan, is it not working? But yeah, so what was I saying? Oh yeah. So, people who have been struggling, people have been struggling with trading. They even go on to this program and they get refreshed, right? They always tell me, oh man, I'm so glad I got into this trading program because I was straying so far away from the actual things that I need to be looking out for, right? And instead they've been focused on the wrong things. And for the fact that they've been focused on the wrong things has led them to continuously lose money, right? So, I think at some point, I realized that, most of the people who took the program were people who were already trading, right? And I always ask them, why are you taking this program, right? And they always tell me the same thing, that they're struggling and they're having problems, right? And after the program, they get a regained freshness of confidence, right? So Hassan, you say yes, got it now. Oh, okay, perfect. And Hassan, I will provide you a discount code. I'll provide you a discount code since you are a member. All right. So I especially did that for you. All right. I'm sure you'll be like to join. Next paycheck going straight here. Nice. Or maybe today's profits. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I believe around at least like 40 of my past students, since I've had 73 students so far, about 40 of them have used their trading profits to get into this program. So a little fun fact. But yeah, like I said, guys, after months of not doing this program, I'm finally doing it again. I'm going to reach out to the people who have asked me last year as well, because I know they've been waiting. And I apologize to all the people out there who have been waiting since last year. I know it's been months. You guys must be frustrated. It's been 5 to 6 months. I'll bring it back. All right. So I am officially bringing the program back. Okay. All right. With that, have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your weekend. Go out and have fun. Personally for me, I'm going to be working out. That's my fun for tonight. But I'll see you all next week. Most likely I won't be doing a live on Monday. I'll be doing a live on Tuesday. Okay. As usual, I've been doing lives from Tuesday to Friday, right? As usual. So next week I will tell you guys what time I will be going live, as usual. Okay. And with that, have a great rest of your night. I'll see you all next week. Thank you for joining.